Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Meticulous Talks for May 13th. I am Chris Accords,
And I'm Hifrock.
and unfortunately, Solving is under the weather today. It's not going to be able to join us, so it's just going to be you and I today, Hithrock.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we wish him a speedy recovery, of course, and he's with us. He's with us in spirit because he gave us a bunch of cards to talk about. So we'll have that at least. On that subject, of course, 2 weeks ago we talked about commons. It was kind of inevitable that we end up moving on to uncommons after that. Not entirely certain how much farther we'll take this concept. Whether we go, that showed up, whatever. Whether we go on down to rares or troopers or whatever, perhaps questionable value, how much there is to that. But we're here talking about uncommons today, regardless.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think there's like too many good rares out there.
That's entirely possible, yeah. Rares tend to be on the better side in terms of their power. We wouldn't necessarily just be talking about all the rares, but there are a lot of very, very good ones. And to be fair, that's a problem we have with the uncommons too. There are just so many of them in core. I think mostly because there's so many of these multicolor cards that are in that uncommon. Every set that's had multicolors has had some of them in an uncommon, and of course, like Defenders and Sequestria had so many in their multicolor slots as well.
Yeah.
So I say it's virtually an inevitability that if you're watching this, there's probably going to be cards that you want us to talk about that we won't, just because we're kind of barely scratching the surface in our time. So if you think we're omitting something, feel free to drop a comment about it, or drop us a line afterwards if you like. But with that all said, I guess we'd better get to it.
Yeah. Do you want to start first?
Sure. So my first card comes to us from Defenders of Equestria. It is Zecora Brewing a Plan. And nothing particularly special to make this the natural first card. I just happen to think that it's a really good. It's a really good thing for purple to have. Eccentric up to now had been entirely pink. I think this is still the only purple card with Eccentric on it.
No, there's also Twilight Entry. She has Eccentric 1.
Oh, yes. Excuse me for forgetting that card. You're correct. The Twilight Cutie Mark Researcher does have Eccentric 1 as well. But this is still, well, okay. Is this the only card with Eccentric 3? I know that the Minuet can have Eccentric 3. Well, maybe...
There's Megamare.
Yeah, I was thinking of her as well. Okay. Sorry, your knowledge is better than mine.
But no one sees Twilight being played except in draft, I guess, and so yeah.
Same as. But anyway, it's still an exceptionally powerful Lyra. Did Lyra have an Eccentric 3? Oh, that's right. That's right. Sequestria Lyra does. And she's actually not a bad card.
Yeah, true.
So, okay. Clearly, I was trying to say something that wasn't entirely accurate there. Anyway, the Cora Eccentric 3 is like Eccentric is one of those things that purple almost didn't realize that it wanted. I guess, and it comes with this beautiful AT generator thing, which is, obviously purple needed more of that, and it's actually can be used to do some very excellent things in this color. So.
Yeah, and it's also really satisfying to put two of these at one problem.
Yeah. There's been a lot of situations where I perhaps have have an opening hand that's maybe one troublemaker short. Like I've got one, but not two. So I'm more than happy to just play one out there, leave the other problem for the opponent. They confront it, whatever. I'll deal with that in the future. Meanwhile, I've got a 2AT advantage or something. That's very helpful.
I have only one issue with this card, is that, like, if your opponent steals it, it's a huge power swing. It's like 6 power, basically, because you lose your eccentric and you lose your free power.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I played Zikoro against Pink, so
that'll happen. Yeah, Pink or
that was happening all the time.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, but I was also playing Pink, so I was stealing Night Gliders in my. So it was all fair.
All fair, yeah. How about you? What's your starting card?
Let me see. Let's go with Dance Fever Dancing Machine, because I really like this card.
Sure.
So Dance Fever Dancing Machine, like a lot of people overlook it, but it's a really good card because so many songs are so good. Like if you look at most of the Defenders of Equestria songs or like multicolor songs, they have pretty good effects. And for a white deck, Dance Fever can really like amplify that effect, especially in aggro deck. And there's a lot of songs that can help you with an aggro deck, like The Vote or Friends Are Always There. Like there's a lot of songs that can provide like even more assistance to confront problems more faster. And more than that, Dance Fever is an entry card, so I can see only positive signs in him.
Yeah. Whenever you can get a fair entry that is like 2 for 2 like this with text on it, is almost always going to be good. So long as that text is good. I suppose I should clarify that. It could be bad text, in which case it might not be good. But whenever you get 2 for 2 with good text, especially good text like this, great. He's this is a card that I overlooked for a long time too, just because I was always playing control and whatever. But these days you're going to put it's going to work in your deck anyway because you're playing white, and so there's almost always a reason to at least consider Fever.
Yeah. Okay, I guess moving on.
Sure, I guess so. Let us go with. Let's go with down at the bottom of my list here, Jonna Gold. She is a card that I don't think I've ever seen in competitive play, but I've always wanted to make her work. Got that amazing text of when this card enters play, your characters, not your characters here, your characters get +1 power till the end of turn. I just look at that, and especially because I play purple white, I play purple yellow now as my main colors. I look at that like, man, that's an amazing card to portal during a troublemaker face-off, during any particular immediate speed effect. Like I say, no one's played her yet that I've seen at least, but that's got to be a really powerful effect to have, especially you're yellow, you've got a whole bunch of tokens out, right? To portal that and suddenly get 10 or 11 power, that's got to be useful, right?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the rare in Sequestria, the Critter Choir.
Yeah.
But it's like Critter Choir is yellow-white, and this is one just yellow.
Yeah, I suppose. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, then.
I was gonna say, I suppose the Critter Choir is kind of a better version of it when you think of it that way. But yeah, this one it's got the flexibility of being able to run it in anything that wants to use yellow.
Yeah. And like, even if you don't have like any useful characters, it's still basically 4 power for free cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's always going to be 5 at least because you've got a main, right?
Yeah, but if your main is at home, it's not going to be.
Yeah, I suppose good point. Well, until end of turn, if you've got like a staff or something out, it's still. Well, I suppose you say useful, right? So whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a pretty powerful effect. And the requirement isn't that high, like only 2 yellow.
Mm-hmm. You can easily barrel into it. Just it's becoming like the natural thing these days. You almost assume everyone's going to have a singing barrel to work with. So I don't know. I want to see her happen at some point. Maybe at some point in the future, if wide yellow becomes like really a thing. Which honestly, it is, right? Like forget about purple yellow. Maybe like a thorax deck would like this too. Well, kind of, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, any deck that has a lot of friends, and many decks run a lot of friends, except farming, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have only like 2 other friends and like your main, that's already 3 more extra power.
Indeed. Yeah.
So you basically get 4 extra power from her. Can swing the ball a little bit.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, doing it's always great to be able to have a trick like that to start face-offs that your opponent's not expecting you to be able to start or confront problems of that sort. Yeah. Oh, all right. Next up.
All right. Let me see. Let's go with scope things out.
Scope. Sure.
Yep. It's not getting much use anymore, especially when there's Selena Blue lurking around the corners. But Selena Blue is a rare, and this one is uncommon. And I'm not sure, like, was this card used in competitive decks before?
I'm not sure. I know that it's generally seen as a natural pair with Moondancer Page Turner. I like trying to remember. Question Nazis was a long time ago. Oh well, there you go. Chat.
Yeah.
The most competitive decks.
Well, yeah. Still, for just 180, even though the requirement is high, you control your top deck, and not just like your top deck, but 3 cards in it. And you get to fish some card you need. Like drawing 4 cards is pretty a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all that just for 180.
Just for 180 at immediate speed too.
Yeah.
So excellent for, as the example given, is you've got those chaos effects that you need to have lined up for face-offs.
Yeah, or just a high flip. Like it works for that too.
That too.
If you don't run that many chaos effects. But yeah. But I think like Selena Blue is kind of pushing this card out because, well, Selena Blue is locked to 2 colors, and this one is single color, but still. Selena Blue is much more powerful because she has eccentric, she's a friend, and she can be reused.
And she doesn't have an additional cost, just an immediate exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next up, I am going to go to the Smooths. Same set. The Troublemaker. Smooth Creeping Crud, which I was first introduced to. It was in Odysseys, but I never really considered the card until much later than that. When it was, want to remember his name properly here. Critical Thought. Yes, he's the guy who originally made Cruel Mistress. It was the first time I actually saw the card in use with Luna's Future. The ability to put 3 plus 1 power counters on it, and suddenly, this card is just, you just can't get rid of it for like 4 turns. You have to beat it like 4 times to actually get rid of it. And that's, once that was revealed to us, now it's like any card that allows you to put +1 power counters on Troublemakers is just has to be reevaluated versus the Smooths, and thought, oh well, there you go. This is that could actually be very useful, right? Especially stuff that works repeatedly, like
there's Pinkie Pie and Twilight card.
Yeah, Pinkie Pie and Twilight
gives you a power counter each time you draw a card.
Mm-hmm. Like that?
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Wasn't saying anything in particular.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Pinkie Pie and Twilight, pink and purple, eh? Well, there are obviously other things that you can do with pink and purple, but yeah, that might be worth looking into.
There's also Trash the Throne, which allows you to put a power counter each time you confront it.
It's true. Yeah. And it's true, of course, in these days, there are dilemmas, there are bait and switch, and such. But
yeah, pretty much any deck like runs some kind of troublemaker removal. Will that be epic troublemakers or dilemmas or bait replacing problems?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, while like the synergy is very powerful, it can be quite easily countered too.
Yeah, but nothing can be perfect.
Sure.
Well, next up for you.
Maybe we should talk about Luna's Future while we're at it.
Well, yeah.
Also pretty good common.
That would be the natural transition, I suppose. Yeah, so we mentioned, of course, Luna's Future as the natural transition, as the natural interaction.
Yeah.
Especially for that third ability, the ability to put 3 +1 power counters on a Troublemaker. In common play these days, that's not generally the most used one.
Well, you can kind of slow down farming early on by playing this on an epic Troublemaker, so they can defeat it easily without like barrel through or something. And it's a song, so in addition to like, it has a lot of versatility. You can banish a resource, or you can banish a friend, basically a portal during the main phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that ability to slow down farming is something we actually saw at BevCon, right? I think that's correct. Yeah. But yeah, the resource management, of course, because you need that all the time these days, and so always great for purple to be able to bundle that functionality in with another card that with other effects that can be useful. Which is, I suppose, probably why Luna's Future is very competitive with a card like Special Beam Cannon. You see it switched out sometimes.
Yeah, and Special Beam Cannon is also common, to be fair.
It's true.
It's cheaper than Luna's Future, but the versatility really pays off. So
yeah,
most of the time, I think.
Yeah, it does require a little bit of creativity sometimes to be able to see the situations where banishing a friend until the end of turn is the correct thing to do, because it's a little bit outside of the normal thought process that you have for removal and for re-entry. But once you can see those plays, it's actually an incredibly useful effect.
Yeah. But I think like this comes with experience playing this card and the deck you're playing.
Yeah.
All right, next for you, I guess.
Sure. Well, let us go back to Spitfire actually, because once upon a time, she was kind of the bane of everyone's existence. Hasn't been seen in, well, since Sequestria came out, basically, and Hot Wings died in a fire. Died in the fire set rotation. But the fact of the matter remains, this card, hasn't gotten any worse on its own merits. We're still hasty, still has that enters play frightened effect. Still has that draw. This card still has 4 abilities on it, and I personally don't think that we've seen the last of this card, even if the deck doesn't come back. People will find other use for it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it has so many abilities stacked on top, and they all work so well with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like experienced and drawing a card when it enters discard pile. That's a synergy.
Mm-hmm.
This card synergizes with itself.
Yeah. And Pink, of course, loves to be able to put stuff into the discard pile. You would have no problem belly flopping this into something, knowing that you're going to draw a card, and it's going to make your next plays a bit better.
Yeah.
And having another immediate speed thing to do with your opponent, knowing that your deck has already got, as I said, belly flop in it. You might have, if you're playing blue pink, you might have Rutherford already or something like that. But having another way to say, nope, you're not confronting, or nope, you're not winning that face off, or whatever. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Right, shall I go?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's go with Sweetie Belle, most traditional.
Most traditional, sure. Man, I remember the hype when this card was spoiled. Back when Defenders was first coming out.
Well, I must say that this card is a beast in draft, because in draft there are smaller decks of 30 cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she can easily mill the whole deck on her own.
Yeah, totally. Given, well, you draw 6 in your opening hand, and yeah, like your deck's usually going to have 15 cards left in it by the end of the game, regardless. And so that's only 7 or 8 triggers of Sweetie Belle to get rid of the rest of it.
Yeah, it's very versatile. It can mill opponent's cards, control opponent's top deck, kind of like Inspired, and it can work kind of like Meticulous too. You can look at your own top deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you're in orange and white and you've got some cards that you'd actually really prefer to be in your discard pile, so that you can play your redeeming qualities, or if you're an orange, you want to power up your smart cookie or something like that. There's actually a whole lot of synergy with the discard pile.
Yeah, it can be a discard outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's often what white wants.
Yeah, this is kind of a card that really established what orange and white were wanting to do for what they have been wanting to do together for the 2 sets since, essentially.
Yeah, and there's also Orchard Blossom, which kind of works like redeeming qualities.
Yes. Yeah.
She's also
that
white and orange.
Yeah, I know a fellow from Vancouver, a good friend of mine, who's been running a resurrection style deck for a long time. I've never actually had the chance to play against it, but well, I mean, he's still running it, and he built it back in Defender, so it must be at least pretty good. And I've I haven't seen anyone else try. I know I tried it once upon a time, but it's always really cool to see a deck like that work. Some unique unique mechanic.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Sure. Yeah. So sticking with orange and white, I'm gonna go to Joe Sticky Glaze. This orange white card from High Magic, back when the colors were, I suppose, trying to do something else together. And so I remember this card working with Muffin Mare, I believe. That was the first time that I saw it actually enter into any usage as a card that stays at the problem, and then you have like your big stuff at home, and then the next turn you just throw the power onto Joe, and there you go as your next. Like if you have one on each problem, you could probably DFO pretty easily that way, and that's that's pretty good. Personally, I looked at this card again and saw that first text. This card's problem can't be replaced until dissolved, and that was actually the text that piqued my interest at first. It's like, oh, that, if I could find some way to stick him at a problem and kind of stick him behind a troublemaker, then well, that turns off bait and switch. That might be pretty useful.
Yeah.
So, still lots of ideas. Now, notably, like my thought process there basically went, put him there. You put like a Storm King on the problem so that then Twilight can't move him away, and then that's something, but he gets frightened, or he gets put on top of your deck, or let's see what else. Portal. Portal works too. So it's basically then, that's impenetrable except for purple and pink and blue. Oh, well, maybe that's not so good anymore.
Yeah. Well, I never thought about it until now, but what happens if you play him at 5 and ready?
Let me see. Okay, hang on a second. So this card's problem can't be replaced until dissolved as a continuous modifier. And fire when ready is a trigger, right?
Yeah, it is a trigger.
So based on my understanding of continuous modifier versus trigger interactions, I think he happens first. I think.
So, meaning that all the problems will be replaced except the fire and ready? Because fire and ready replaces all the problems. I think.
Hang on a second. Now I want to go look at rules. Oh, there you go. Grandpa's is telling us that.
I actually can see it.
You can't see him in the chat?
Yeah, I think my chat like that.
Oh, well, anyway, he says that you're right.
Okay. Well, that's fun.
It is actually pretty fun. And then that him being there says the problem can't go away. Huh.
Yeah, you can confront fire and ready that way.
If you'd like to, yeah.
Maybe something to build around deck too, like for fun.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Show that in. Well, you'd have to be in harmony, I guess, if you wanted to.
Oh yeah. And we're here in core.
Yeah. Well, I was like, obviously you have to be in harmony if you want to play Fire and Ready. I was thinking of like which tournament you would have to be in if you wanted to have a chance of actually doing it. Because in Nightmare, you don't have enough time to confront Fire and Ready.
Oh, talking about like colors doing things, we have a similar card right now in orange yellow. I think it's Applejack and Fluttershy from Sequestria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And yellow got a lot of stuff like I would actually argue that staying at problems is more yellow thing because we have hazmat suit and in yellow, and we have like this new sequestria card, Applejack and Fluttershy, I mean. And we also have day shift, which is kinda staying at the problems.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This was back in High Magic. It does have kind of a flavor with, I don't know, sticky sugar or whatever, but
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. So, next up for you.
Let's go with Cold Wave for now.
Cold Wave, gotcha.
So Cold Wave can do quite a bit of a swing because there aren't many decks are running accessories.
Pretty much, well, okay, a few that I can think of, maybe. Right now, but not that many, that's for sure.
So it can be helpful during against farm too. You can just play during a troublemaker face off and get their main exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you don't play accessories yourself, basically Cold Wave makes the face off boil down to the flip, and you can decide to play it after the flip to guarantee a face off win if you have a higher flip.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely in an asymmetric face-off, i.e., one where the opponent has characters involved and you don't, which is generally just like troublemakers. Yeah, this is almost always going to be just you play this and you win the face-off, unless you're playing against a farming deck, say, who happens to have 2 barrel throughs in hand or something like that. Sure, then not so. But yeah, this has always been White's kind of generic, super immediate face-off trick.
Yeah,
it's actually really unfortunate that White has never really had a good main to lean on for a control deck of that sort. And well, when Purple White was played, there were just better options. But the card certainly isn't bad.
I think it's one of the better uncommons out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I picked it.
I think I'm trying to remember Bugle's mini bell list and whether he ran this or not. Did he? I feel like he.
Think.
Sorry?
I think I said.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. That it certainly makes sense for a deck that's gonna be troublemaker face-offs and White, right? So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Sure. Let us move on. What do I have left here? Okay. So I want to go to Picky Pine Rarity from Sequestria next. Yeah, so this is a card that I, again, you don't see much of at all these days. And it was only just recently that I was looking at it and saw that when it was a character is moved text, right? And so for people who've been playing the game for a long time, there may be some temptation to look at that and say, oh, that's like standstill, but a little, you have to pay 1 for it. And when it's, excuse me, when you, when it's not costing a card, there's still some level to that. But I can understand why people might not have originally thought it was so good. But in this world where I know in the decks that I play against, in like Coco and stuff, you do see a lot of Scootaloo. You do see a lot of day shift, there might be some value to this effect. Like Scootaloo really would not appreciate having both her end of turn triggers canceled because you just happen to have two of these in play.
Yeah. But I also want to point out that I think unlike Stand Still, this card, the move still happens. The character is just sent to the previous area, so
Yes.
things like Traveler still trigger.
Yeah, Traveler, Pirate Dash, they all still trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out that it's not as effective against farm as a card like say Spike, because this trigger happens like the opponent tries to move Applejack, you send it back, the opponent moves Applejack again, versus the opponent moves Applejack and you send it back in your turn, right? So
Yeah, but I want to point out that like Spike is in purple and this is pink-white, so it still can be useful against farm if you're playing pink-white.
that's a good point.
And sometimes farm moves with Starlight Glimmer, Troublemaker, and this can cancel that out.
Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, that's a very good point. That might be a good reason to work with. And yeah, as you say, we know pink and white are two colors that go together very nicely in Sequestria. And so there is a deck there that could potentially consider using those in. Unfortunately, it's a sea pony. Well, no, okay, hang on a second. I'm thinking of my Think White deck that would really, really appreciate this card being a unicorn because then it could use it with Starlight Glimmer to copy events. But most people aren't me and don't do that. So normal pink-white deck doesn't necessarily want the card to be a unicorn.
I mean, if you have Starlight Glimmer, it's already not pink-white, quite.
Yeah. It's pink, white, purple.
And also, if you exhaust it with Starlight Glimmer, you can't use it. So
yeah. But either way, this is another card that I looked at while I was doing the compilation for this and thought, might be worth trying to fit that into a bodyguard deck just to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Also has eccentric too.
Also has eccentric too. Never forget about that. Oftentimes good enough.
All right.
Sure.
Let's move on. Well, speaking of pink-white, let's talk about Tender Taps.
Sure.
He's like Fancy Pants, but with chaos, eccentric, and pink.
Oh, there he is. Tender. Chaos, eccentric, and pink. Absolutely. And we talked about the ability to bring stuff back to the discard pile being such a great thing. There's often so many times that I'm putting a white deck together and I'm able to see all the beautiful stuff that the Tender Taps can get back.
Yeah. Especially in pink-white, like there's bodyguards, there's very punch and orange swirl.
There's to go back in time a little bit. There's what was that card? Opal. Opalescence that banishes a card with 2 cost or less when it enters play.
Yeah.
You can get back Octavia, the card blocking Octavia. Harsh Judge, that is. What else? I'm thinking of a few. Any of the sort of aggressive styles like Aloe, like Sequestria Rarity. If you're trying to run a more aggressive deck. Yeah, there's just so many options.
Yeah. And also great chaos effects. Chaos effect, I mean.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Like, sometimes flipping this card can swing face off drastically.
Yeah, which is...
Especially if you're playing Octavia or something.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Suddenly throwing... you flip 3, you get extra body into play. You get at least 1 extra body into play. if you are playing Octavia, I assume you can pull out something that is going to make even more tokens work. I mean, if you're playing, like, say, Living Silver's Octavia deck, and
Yeah.
you've got a Ravers in play, then this is, let's see here.
We saw that
2, 3,
we saw for
yeah.
a Quadra Confront for 380.
Yeah.
Right, moving on.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go to Flitter and Cloud Chaser next. Card that I used just this past week for my stupid Lyra deck that I built for Adventure. I don't know if you saw that yet. But basically, this is a card that does a really cool thing in sort of adjusting the size of your hand. I know for a fact this time that there's no other card that changes your max hand size. I can
quite a unique effect.
Yeah. Say that and know that no one's going to disagree with me this time. And so it's really unfortunate that there hasn't really been a deck that wants to do it yet. Like I used it in that Lyra deck because Lyra explicitly draws you up to your max hand size, and so to take that to 10 or to 12 or in some magical land up to 14 perhaps, that would be really nice. But you'd see maybe Control wants to use something like this. Maybe actually essentially just Control wants to use something like this. Aggro decks tend to run between like 3 and 5 cards in hand in general, just because you're playing stuff all the time. So they wouldn't like it that much. But yeah. So I just think it's kind of, I'm sad that this that a card that's unique like this hasn't found a home yet.
Well, maybe it will. I think her effect is very interesting. Like having it like if you have one of them in the play, having 10 cards in hand can be pretty powerful in the control deck.
Mm-hmm.
Also, doesn't make you think about, oh, what do I need to discard? And also, I think like if you're playing a QT marking deck, drawing a card for each QT mark is pretty good.
Yeah, that's true as well. One of these days we need to see a key marking deck that makes it nicely competitive, or at least casually good. Let's see. Well, I know you've got a lot of really good cards on your list left.
Yeah. Let's go with Rainbow Shine, Gift Giver, I think.
Rainbow Shine, sure. Against defenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was that point when I was going through the sets to make up this list. When I got to Rainbow Shine, I was like, oh boy, there's just so many cards that are good.
Yeah, like I also got to Rainbow Shine and thought like, oh, there's so many uncommons. I actually cut the list in half, I think. There's like, I had more cards in my list, but then I decided to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I discluded some like not too interesting cards like Special Cannon. I mean, isn't much to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a resource removal. But yeah, Rainbow Shine. I always forget about her first ability. Like I mostly use her for cost reduction and forget that I can draw cards from her all the time.
Yeah, she's. Go ahead.
Yeah, but she's kind of like cover to cover, but for events.
Pretty much, yeah.
If you play an event each turn, of course. And many people use it during your opponent's turn. Like as soon as their turn starts, you exhaust her.
Yep. Even if you don't have any events to play, it's always good to set up that little mind game.
Yeah. Free belly flops, sure.
Sure, why not, right? Yeah, it's great that we all know the saga of Rainbow Shine and how she was out of the meta for so long. Got a triumphant return in Defenders, and yeah, and it's worth pointing out this card is sitting in that beautiful 1/1 requirement spot, which is so important to have good cards on that spot for any color combination.
Yeah.
I would say this enables pink purple to be good, except of course that pink purple is good right now and doesn't run this card. But
I mean, some purple pink decks run it.
oh really?
Like BRB does, I think.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it does.
Perhaps it's been too long since I've looked at the most recent lists of that.
Let me look up this real quick. Yeah, 2 Rainbow Shines in the list that Aracat played and BabsCon.
Well, there it is. Okay. So there it is. Then yes, this card is perfect for pink and purple.
But yeah, I mean, especially in a deck like Beardback, which plays a lot of events like portals, belly flops. What else does it have? There are more events than that. Luna's Future. And, well, Rest in Pieces, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of events to reduce the cost for. Okay, she does see competitive play. I don't run her personally in my portal deck, but there's no room for her in my opinion there. But I did run her when I just started playing the game. I started with Steal the Show deck,
Yeah.
and it's purple pink, and Rainbow Shine was one of my first modifications into the deck.
And she did you well, I assume.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
They're always forgetting about drawing cards.
We all need to learn about. We all need to learn to never forget triggers somehow. Perhaps it's good that you forget to draw a card instead of forget to score a point, like all of us white players out there. So, anyway, I've only got a couple of them left. Let's go on to mod from here. That being, of course, Marks in Time, Philly mod. One of my, we'll probably move on relatively quick because this card's pretty much only on here for flavor reasons. But I've always found that to be so. It just makes me happy to see this card, how it grows up to become the main that we had from back in Rock and Rave. And it's, again, it's got that first ability that people will always forget about. And that how it can kind of prime itself as soon as you play it, throw 2 cards into the discard pile. From that point, it's going to cutie mark into at least a 4-power card because there's going to be something in your discard pile. And yeah, like it actually is going to be because when you cutie mark it, you put a +1 power counter on it. It's exactly equivalent to the main. It has the exact same powers and everything.
Yeah. I never thought about the flavor like that she grows up into main.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about it this way. And it's kind of even more flavor given that when you cutie mark her, she gets to 3 powers just like the main.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something I never thought of.
Yeah. It actually, and it's great to see that kind of past ability get brought back into the game at a later point. I was thinking actually, as I believe it was like last night, as I was putting the final touches on my list, if we ever got Philly DJ who cutie marks to get exhaust to draw a card, would that be terrible again? You know what? I think that would actually be okay if that could exist at some point.
We have, I think it's Marimare, she's called.
Uh-huh.
The JRP from Defenders, which immediate exhausts to draw a card.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, I think she's called Marimar. I'm not sure.
Oh, that card. Yeah. No, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and yeah, you're right. She's not broken. So I'd put that in as a suggestion. Just a fun little kind of remember this card kind of thing. I'd love to see that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, many people don't have to remember it because vinyl is quite often played in Harmony.
It's
From
true.
what I can gather.
Harmony is still a thing. DJ has not gotten too much worse. In fact, I know I'm going to be playing her at Everfree next week. In Nightmare, granted, not a Harmony, but still.
Yep.
Alrighty. What's next?
Let's go with halfway across Equestria.
Halfway, sure.
Quite a powerful problem, in my opinion.
Yeah. Still sees play in. Well, it's sort of sometimes in the standard purple control package. Like the control problem deck is relatively set in stone, but I think halfway is like sometimes in, sometimes not.
Yeah. Moving opposing characters fairly powerful during like I like that it works at like for any face-off, so it can be useful against farm. It'll be quite hard to farm a troublemaker on this problem because you can just move the main away or whatever. And like if you're playing this problem, you're a control deck and you are probably running something like Changeling Mimics. So if you put Mimics at this problem, it will be quite hard to defeat them too. Like any troublemaker becomes a problem at this problem.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and it's there's so few restrictions on that movement. It's not just you may move an opposing character here. It's not just you may move an opposing character to home. It's just straight up move an opposing character, and there's you might not even necessarily use it to influence the face-off here. You might just use it to if you can see that the other problem is going to become a problem. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You can use it to influence that too. And of course, it's sitting on like this beautiful 10-10 plateau again. You're playing control. You don't care as much about the fact that it's got a huge confront requirement to yourself. You're just eventually going to pile up enough stuff there to confront it.
Yeah. And 10 for the opponent is quite a lot.
10 is a lot, yeah. Oh, okay. I guess that's me next then, isn't it?
Yeah.
My list is running short. Okay. Let's go to Orchard Blossom next. So, I remember once upon a time, when I still played in Vancouver, there was a fellow who ran a pretty serious orange-blue deck there, and Orchard Blossom always featured really prominently in any game that he would play, just because we talked about for Rainbow Shine the 1/1 requirement slot, and here we go again with another card in that slot. And never mind that it also happens to be 3 cost, 4 power, and that when you throw Swift onto a 4 power friend, that's generally pretty good. The second text usually doesn't matter much, but still nice to have. But yeah, positive cost to power ratio and Swift is just really good.
Yeah. And the second ability can be really useful. Like, it's not just discards the card; it discards the random card. So you can discard something that opponent has been holding on to.
For sure, yeah.
Not quite on yellow per sprite levels though.
Yeah, not quite, but even so, it's occasionally hits something really useful. It's almost strange to me that, well, I mean, I'm sure if I thought about it enough, I could tell why orange blue isn't a thing right now. But you know, there are some really great cards for it that still exist. So it's always worth considering.
Yeah. And well, to be fair, orange blue is kind of like it's quite flavorful to have these colors together.
Good point. Yeah. Well, I don't think there's really much to say about this besides the fact that it's so.
Speaking of powerful cards with one requirement, let's maybe talk about Barrel Jack.
Sure. I was wondering when we would get there. Kind of the card that necessarily needs to be talked about whenever we. Probably the one that was at the front of everyone's mind when we said powerful uncommons.
Yeah. Like if someone talks about powerful uncommons, there should be Applejack. And this card is kind of like why I like purple orange as colors. I've never tried it myself though, but I always wanted to. Maybe I'll run in the next COC or something.
Really? Oh, you should. It's it's a really great feeling to get to start the turn and then afterwards get 5 more action tokens.
I can imagine that. So yeah, it's kind of similar to cover, but unlike cover to cover, it is immediate. I don't know if it's mattered at any point.
So immediate is better for if you wanted to play an event like in a phase that would require immediate speed. Like say, so you play cover to cover, and you get that action token, and then it's always. I'm trying to formulate this argument as I go, and I'm not sure if it's particularly good. But anyway, you have that action token in play, whereas Factory Jack, you can exhaust it. I don't think I'm making a good point here. Just go on. Sorry. I was trying to say that you like exhaust her at some other point, and then you have the AT then, but I think it works the same way.
Yeah, well, unless you want to do something in the ready phase. But at that point, you have your like initial AT, so that might be enough.
Yeah, I suppose if you're running against some weird yellow deck that has some ability to take away your AT, then you could, like, I don't know, confront into Sunburst, who would normally take away your AT, and then exhaust your Factory Jack afterwards. So now your AT is safe.
True. So yeah, and unlike cover to cover, it has lower requirements, even though it's in 2 colors. Cover to cover has 3 purple, and this one has only 1 requirement, and also has 2 power and stubborn.
Yeah. The 2 power is really what can help this card out so much. Like you're playing a card like, say, Ambassador Twilight loves it so much to be able to sit home. You have a train tradition set. Hey, you throw down a Factory Jack. Now suddenly you're fixed into both your colors. Even if the train tradition goes away, you're still sitting at 2 in each. Yeah, it's such a beautiful first play.
All right, what's next?
All righty, I believe I only have one left. In my list, at least, and that would be Pipsqueak.
Oh, the one that lets you farm your own troublemakers?
Indeed, Mr. Working as Intended, as I have him listed. on my list. Yeah, certainly one of those sort of gotcha cards that you look at that and you think to yourself, "Oh, well, sure, challenge troublemaker. That's a thing that blue does." And then eventually someone points out to you, "Well, hang on a second. It doesn't say opposing troublemaker." Yeah, actually, it doesn't say opposing troublemaker. So wait, doesn't that let you challenge your own troublemaker? Well, I suppose it does. And then I believe someone on Facebook said, "Yeah, that's totally what it does," and that's what it does.
Yeah. And that's quite unique. You can come up with some cool combinations like challenging your own drawers to reuse some chaos effect.
Yeah.
And there are more like troublemakers that you might want to challenge yourself.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that I remember pretty well is that there is, and granted we're getting into three colors here, but sure, if you want to do it for the memes, there is, what is that card? Time Patrol, Princess Twilight Sparkle Time Patrol, the orange purple ultra rare. It says your troublemakers have diligent too, and when I first saw that card, I thought, oh great, this is amazing. I can challenge my epics, and when I lose, then it's fine, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, shoot. No, this is going to go the same direction as my original. You know, just forget about it.
Well,
no.
well, if you mix in smooth here, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, smooth works. Smooth works. Because for any of you listening who isn't aware of the rules, diligent requires you win the face-off. Not necessarily that the card with diligent won the face-off, but you won the face-off. So, yeah, it would have to be smooth, essentially, to be able to win the face-off, not defeat the troublemaker. Then the troublemaker's diligent would fire. Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat here. Grandpa suggested wild manticore as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but smooth with time patrol is an interesting interaction. Never thought about that before. Until now.
Oh yeah, that would actually be very nice. Yeah, that's kind of a niche thing to do, smoothing time patrol, but someday maybe. I mean, I remember specifically that I saw that card, thought it was amazing, traded for a playset of it, and then only later realized, oh, this doesn't actually do what I thought it does. So any excuse to use it is something I'm all over right now. All right. Well, next up for you.
Let's see what I have here. Let's talk about Tension's exam. There's not much to talk about it, but I think it should be mentioned nonetheless. So it's how all purple problems should be. They should give you it.
I'm not going to argue with that. Because we all know that's what purple needs, is more IT all the time.
Yeah, gain AT for everything. Like, your opponent moves a character, gain AT. You move a character, gain AT. Purple has pretty much AT gains for pretty much everything that can happen in the game.
You gain an AT, you gain an AT. Wait.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But yeah, and it's like this problem's in a really great spot where 7 is high enough that your opponent usually does have to think about it. Like that's notably that's outside the range of most mains with a stick. That'll be 6. Whereas
Yeah.
6 is perfect for you if you're playing a purple main with a stick on it.
I mean, not really, because you kind of want to exhaust your main.
Good point. Good point, actually. That's a good point. But 6 is still like 2 3 power characters, say, for example. It's a nice number.
But yeah, the effect is really, really useful.
Mhm.
Gaining it is pretty powerful, and there isn't much your opponent can do about it. Like, they can frighten your covers to covers, but they can't do much about the main and your ability to exhaust it. They can only replace the problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes this extra AT is very nice to have.
For all the times you were 1 AT short.
Yeah. And then you realize you're 3 power short.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm at the end of my list, but like I said at the start of the stream, Solving did provide us with a little list of his own to work with, so I'm going to be picking up for him now. A second to get into my British accent. No, I won't. Let's go for him for Petrified.
Sure.
So back in Harmony, oh, I love my cards here. White had dressed up to take away abilities, and orange had clip wings, and there are a whole bunch of options. But right now, this is the only card I think that really is the accessory. It's actually not an accessory, even though it gets played on a friend, but the resource that goes on a friend that just says that friend's useless now, and it is pretty much useless. This card is almost a little bit over-engineered to say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Yeah. You can still retire it to do stuff for like belly flop, and that's probably what you would end up doing if your friend got played. And you can still exhaust it to do stuff if you have like a muffin mayor or something like that. But besides those two things, I believe the card is completely useless.
Oh, also, I think worth mentioning that the card will still give power for entry.
Oh, yes, that's actually a good point. Yes, it would still provide requirement.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little unfortunate that the card hasn't seen any play. But well,
I mean, I think that's because we have quite a lot of resource removal going on right now, and this is a resource.
it's a good point. Yeah.
And like quite a lot of decks benefit from retiring their own friends, and this also kind of reduces the value of this card. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's still nice. And it's especially nice in draft, because in draft your removal options are limited.
Much more, yes. So.
And limited play.
Mm-hmm. I just thought it would be so very fun to play this on Big Mac, actually. See him eat his way out of this. Anyway.
Yeah, this is a cake pie that Big Mac can chew on.
That's a good point. Speaking of Big Mac, I believe he's on your list, right?
Yeah, I do have Big Mac on my list.
And for sort of all reasons that we can agree on.
I mean, Big Mac is one of the few cards that are repeated resource removal. The only one I can think of within Harmony is the Mayor.
Yep. It's essentially... I think that's true. Yeah. Pretty sure. Yeah.
But it has a huge downside that opponent can react to it, unlike the most resource removals out there.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's pretty good. And it also gains power when you dismiss a resource. And you can eat your own resources.
Yeah, it's been said so often before, or at least I've said it so often before, that with quote unquote normal resource removal, like beam can or something, right? One thing goes away and like, okay, fine. Well, it's unfortunate that thing's gone, but at least I can keep playing more stuff. But Big Mac, he just sits there and he's like, as long as it's there, I can't play my sticks. I can't play my changeling thrones or whatever. It's really infuriating from the opponent's perspective, especially if you are playing a deck like purple that has no real way to get rid of him forever.
Yeah, and if he ate one, like purple has putting on top of the deck thing,
Yeah, napcakes.
like napcakes, but he goes out of the range of napcakes fairly quickly if he hits at least one resource.
Yeah, you have to hit him right away if you want napcakes to work.
Yep.
So yeah, unsurprising, and given orange being a deck and having resources to worry about, yeah, unsurprising that he sees a whole pile of play.
Yeah, and orange doesn't have many resource removals. Does it even have any?
Just this one, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, it's the only resource remove orange got, and it's pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm.
At that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next up on Solving's list, I'm going to go with Petite Sneeze, which is a card that hasn't been seen much of at all. This is another card that made its way into Beagle's deck, actually, as for the reasons he stated during the stream. Sweetie Belle just discards resources, yada yada. But it is worth pointing out that the ability to hit just about anything is actually pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's high cost for very high versatility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The 3 cost, 4 requirement, discard 2 cards. That is very that is very high cost, especially in white. And it's true that white, excuse me again, as we mentioned earlier, is kind of the color that interacts a lot with the discard pile, whether it be to bring stuff back out of it, well, generally to bring stuff back out of it in white. Yeah. So there are certainly ways to turn that discard 2 cards into a positive, such as it is.
Yeah, like in Sweetie Belle deck.
Yeah.
It's a good example of mitigating the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I think, worth pointing out that it's banishing a thing. Like, it's not going to come back.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Banishing. Well, we're talking about Sweetie Belle. Banishing resources is good for that reason. Banishing friends, obviously great for the serious kind of friends that a white deck that's going to want to run redeeming qualities to get its photo finish back or whatever. Banish is good there. And with all the Captain Wuzzes that you see around these days, banishing troublemakers is pretty good too.
Yeah. Right. Moving on.
Sure.
What do I have here? Let's go with Under Arrest, the card which I don't think we see all that often. I still think it's fairly good.
Certainly been a while since I last saw it around. Under Arrest is the one that, it essentially permanently exhausts, right?
Yeah, for anything with 3 or less power. Which can be opposing main character. Which I think it's primary use of that resource.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Especially against... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't really think too much about this card, but that is definitely 3 or less power. Yeah, that being main character is pretty good.
Yeah, like against Bluna. Like Bluna becomes practically useless
Practically
at that
useless.
point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she can move around, but she doesn't do anything.
Always exhausted. Yep.
Yeah.
I suppose. What is it? Sequestria has what is that card? Like when your main moves, it gets to move too, or something. But what is the name of the card? Or am I misremembering it?
I mean, have cards like Sky Stinger, which when you move it, can move someone else, I think, or it's vice versa. When you move someone, you can move it.
Squabble. That's the card. When you move another character, you may exhaust one of your characters to move this card. Nah, maybe not. Yeah, not quite what I was thinking, but anyway. The point about under arrest still stands.
Yeah, but I think what like kind of it doesn't shine because of the amount of resource removal out there.
Yeah.
It would be more useful if there wasn't as much resource removal nowadays.
Yeah, such a shame that somewhat paradoxically, having a bunch of amazing resources in the game makes the rest of the resources worse. Just because everyone starts packing answers.
Right. Let's move on.
Sure. So I'm just going kind of up the list here for solving, which means next up is Appaloosa Blackball Team. There it is.
Yeah, I really like this card myself. Besides that, it has all the traits, all 3 tribes. I mean, it's essentially 6 power during the face-offs because it has stubborn and it can exhaust to give 3 power to someone else. And what interestingly enough, it can give 3 power. I think it can give 3 power to a troublemaker.
Yes, it is specifically cards, not characters. So, yep.
I don't think it's like really useful because I don't think many orange decks are control decks with troublemakers, but still something worth pointing out, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've seen this card in like the orange purple farming decks that go around. And well, true, generally a farming deck isn't going to want to give power to the troublemaker. Sometimes your opponent challenges it, and then it's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that chaos ability, of course, is very useful for the farming decks that want to include it. Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's for me as a purple player with Spike, who loves Spike a lot. This card was actually like one of the biggest issues that I had playing against those decks. It's like, oh well, I can shut down Applejack just fine, but suddenly 2 Buckball teams got on the field. It's like, whoa, that's gonna deal with those troublemakers probably.
Yeah, but you could argue that Rescue Party is a little bit better than this card. It's a
possibly, yeah. Rescue Party is same amount of power all the time. Flips 2, can't be frightened. Yeah.
Yeah. But has 1 more ATN cost.
Has 1 more ATN cost.
Higher requirement.
I believe it is higher requirement too.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Coming down to the end of it here, I think. You have a few left though.
Yeah, but like, we don't necessarily have to talk about all of them.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, but I think we should mention Shushine though.
I agree. Kind of a ridiculous card, as many of us have discovered.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I'm not sure if it's the correct comparison here, but it feels like Thunderlane to me. moving at immediate speed with retiring friends, and like Thunderlane uses tokens to move and power counters, I mean. And this one uses friends to move, and given that it's yellow, you're probably having a lot of critters, and she can put critters by herself.
Yep. Yeah, it's you might look at that, and I can understand how you might think, perhaps it's not the greatest comparison, since this card is 1 cost, 1 power stuff, whereas Thunderlane is 4 cost, 5 power high requirement. But mechanically, it is very similar, very much the same thing. And Shoeshine does not take long before she's. I mean, it could happen all in one turn if you got a whole bunch of tokens out before. Yeah, she's up at 5 power, up at 6 power, and there's not much that you can do about it.
Yeah, and given that she can move at immediate speed, means a lot of things. Like you can retire friends to a home limit, like before the home limit retirement, to buff her up a little bit with Traveler, or you can challenge 2 troublemakers with her, like you would like to do with Thunderline. Or many other things.
Yeah.
There's so much you can do with immediate movement.
Could confront as many problems as you wanted to, provided you still had critter tokens to work with, or friends to retire.
Yeah.
If you happen to have, say you happen to have 2 Industrial Revolutions out, then you're set.
Yeah.
Then you really can confront as many problems as you like. Actually, do you remember? This is actually kind of important now that I think about it. Do you remember Defender's event Similo Duplexus?
Sorry?
Similo Duplexus, that event from.
Oh yeah. Sure.
I'm trying to remember what was the order of the confront steps. Like when you have multiple confront steps per problem, are they done sequentially per problem, or?
I think you can choose the order, maybe? I actually haven't. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then you could actually, if you had that confront on Industrial Revolution, go around and confront some other stuff. Oh, I'm out of credit tokens. Go back and confront Industrial Revolution again. Get some more fuel for Shoeshine if you wanted to.
It sounds like a really fun combo. Well, not combo, but it's think a wrong word.
It's a really cool interaction, notwithstanding that we're in 3 colors again. So, yeah. Anyway, Shoeshine's nice. Yeah, I suppose that's me next, then, isn't it?
And I think it's also worth pointing out that you probably want her in a Taurox deck because she's a 1 power friend.
Yeah. No problem with that.
And she is the reason why I play Fleeter in my King decks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that either.
Well,
there we go. Yeah, so next up for solving here, we have Tough Love. And I remember being so happy when this card first came out, because this was like the first, for so long, I had been saying that yellow needs more competitively costed put stuff to hand effects, and preferably at immediate speed. And this was the first one that's like, yes, I can see myself playing this card. Totally, and using it for a similar idea as to how blue uses Rutherford and how, well, not necessarily how pink uses belly flop, because that's just ridiculous. But yeah, it really brought yellow into this sort of the 21st century, as it were. It's like finally this control thing that yellow does is actually costed appropriately.
Yeah. So there's in Sequester that's kind of similar and uncommon with pink. It's Pinkie Pie and Princess Skystar.
It's true.
Also does a very similar thing, has hasty and returns a friend to a hand without any restrictions.
Without any restrictions, yes. Still plenty of room to get better. And for what it's worth, that card is really, really good. So if if Enterplay is listening, no need to push it further than that. We've found the right area, I think.
But
Mhm.
I would like to see like more of, I don't know, yellow white with bedtime. I think it's
Yeah, I mean, bedtime
something
is
fun to try.
still a card that is lurking there. I think a few people, myself included, look at it every new set, see if that deck can actually go somewhere. Because yeah, every time the yellow gets another put stuff to hand effect, that card does get a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on.
Sure.
Blackmail?
Blackmail is one that I wouldn't have let you get out of here without talking about. Possibly no other card better exemplifies what white control means.
Yeah. I mean, Blackmail has everything for control. It has 0 bonus. It has scoring points if you successfully controlling, and it has high requirements. Pretty much everything control wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does have that 6 white, which for all the decks that often run it and are only splashing white for their points, is usually just barely possible to confront if you happen to have two of your photo finishes out at once or something like that. But as people have said, points are good. I mean, who cares if you can never confront it? You're running control. Put it down there.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there's always opponent's problem.
Yeah. And thank yourself that this is not an optional trigger, so you don't have to worry about forgetting about it too.
Yeah. Also might put some Zikoros there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is the card that has, to some extent, breathed new life into problem deck searching, because control decks usually just want to make sure that it's going to be starting problem, blackmail, and if there are other problems in the deck, but I would really prefer if they were just all blackmails, and so using like a bodyguard to search search your problem deck is actually really good in that sense.
Yeah, and you can also like, if you're playing bodyguards, you're also playing pink, and there's also bridging the gap,
Mm-hmm.
which can help a lot with finding more blackmails. Also, getting a blackmail after the first face off in the game, like against some aggro or something, is pretty good.
Oh, totally. To see that 10 come down and no, it's going to be a thorn in your opponent's side for a little while and scoring you points all at the same time that's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah. I had that happen to me. I mean, against me.
Oh, against
I was
you.
the side.
That's a shame. Okay.
So what's next?
Sure. Well, next up, last one on Solving's list is bulk biceps. The banned one, which is a little bit perhaps against our stated intent of cards which are good and core, but I think I can understand Solving's enthusiasm card. Did get banned after all. Was pretty good. Yeah. This period of the Question Aussies was a little bit before my time, as it were. I never actually saw this deck get played because I was still playing the bad decks, as it were. But well,
Yeah, I only really saw bulk biceps myself in the starter deck because in my play group we're like playing the starter decks as they are, and he's there, and it's okay that he's there. Like it's a fairly powerful card, can swing the game around if you're playing in theme decks, but not something like on insane level. Well, because you don't have portals in that deck.
yeah, but yeah, once people discovered that, well, it is unfortunate that Bulk's career was so short. Um, Not that Pink White, I guess, needed the extra help, but yeah.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, I suppose, just because.
Yeah, still uncommon. Well, to be fair, Vapor Trail is also uncommon.
To be fair, yes.
And it might have been like actually a good card in core because in core you don't have
You don't.
one purpose.
Yeah, good point. It's possible that might, the ban list was of course grandfathered into core, but it's conceivably possible that it could be modified to cover the fact that, as you say, um, one purpose can't exist in core, and so Vapor Trail could conceivably be allowed to exist.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think I have many cards left. I think the only one is Grubber, and the other ones like can be skipped.
Sure.
Because they're similar to those.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have, it's a secret to every pony on my list, but it's kind of similar to Entrance Exam. You could argue.
Mm-hmm.
Like gaining AT, playing efficiently.
Yep. But Grubber was the last mandatory card, I think.
Yeah.
Which is interesting given that I was kind of thinking about it, and the card itself is actually maybe not the greatest. Like, if you look at it individually, suppose that there are no Tempests in play, then it's just a 5, it's essentially just a 5 power.
Yeah, it's kind of worse yellow Parasprite, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no yellow Parasprite in core, but still.
Yeah. But I remember when the Sequestria spoilers were happening, and Tempest Shadow first came out, and I remember I was in like Reddit or something, and I said to myself, well, why would the Tempest is turn one mimics like always, like why would you ever do something else? And well,
yeah, there's the reason for you.
There you go. There's a card that says it's not. Yeah. So give Enterplay credit for making a card like that so specific, but so very good at that. It's a very nice flavor there.
I mean, given the Tempest Shadow Ultra Rare, you can fit it into the decks without Tempest main.
That's actually a good point. Stormcaller works.
Yeah. But by itself, without Tempest, it's like discarding a card isn't too well. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's not much compared to your opponent discards one of your cards.
Yeah. Or yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much to say.
Grubber's presence changed core for forever, basically. Totally different game.
I mean, Grubber was kind of in core initially. Well, there was a block, I guess.
Yeah, okay. That's a good point, I guess. Well, That takes
I
us.
think. I mean, I have also bailout on my list, but I don't think there's much can be talked about it. It's pretty much a good exhaust kind of removal.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to wrap up probably.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean we're already quite a bit further on than we were for the commons, and that just kind of goes to show the depths of what you've got at the uncommon level in core right now.
Yeah, there's so much good uncommons.
Mm-hmm.
I had to cut my list.
And speaking of uncommon cards in core, it's kind of a weak segue, but there was just the tiniest dribble of news this past week that I assume you heard. The post-it note about set 10, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, that's the hype train is not but a single puff of smoke in the distance, but still worth mentioning. If yeah.
I mean, even if it was a single message, which was, "Oh, the set 10 is coming out at some point," which was well to me it was obvious that it will be at some point. So this message doesn't really change anything, but I'm still a little bit more excited than I was.
Yeah. One hopes that Interplay wouldn't have said that unless more news was really coming, right? If it's you hope that it's not going to be like another month until something else happens, and then we finally get our first spoiler or something like that. But yeah.
How much time usually passes from the announcement to the release?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's like from the announcement to the release is usually going to be like a couple of months. I think because
I think it's quite more than that. I remember having spoilers for Defenders in January, and they got released in June.
okay,
And Sequestria was announced before the Defenders of Equestria were released, I think.
that's okay. I suppose I only really start paying attention when the first spoiler comes out. Generally,
Yeah. I wonder what the first spoiler is gonna be. Maybe it will be a Trixie.
That's entirely possible. You never know. But yeah, if we're lucky, we just get free stream topics for the next couple of months because we just settle back into spoiler streams, and wouldn't we all appreciate that? But in any event, our next stream is going to be May 27th, 2 weeks from now, like always. Next week, of course, is Everfree Northwest. I'm going to be there, and hopefully I can pick up some...
I'll be watching from the shadows.
You'll be watching naturally, yeah? Well, as however you like to watch it, perhaps you'll have the lights on in your house. Anyway, hopefully Solving will be back with us over his illness in 2 weeks' time, I hope. And so, yeah. If you've got nothing else to say, Ithrock?
No, I don't think I have anything to say.
All right. Then we'll see you all in a fortnight. I've been Chris, of course.
And I'll be Hithrock.
Have yourself a great weekend.
Yeah, bye.
Oh, happy Mother's Day, by the way, for anyone out there.